Welcome to the webinar for the Managed Human Resources Services Unit, Assessment 1 and 2. My name's Nikita and I'll be your specialist for this unit. What is today's purpose? So today we're going to provide a breakdown of the first two assessments of this unit and give you some assistance in completing the questions and assessments to kind of help you go through your course and everything as well. So basically, we're just going to take our time, go through the first two assessments together and just break them down for you. The session is going to run with an overview of the assessment as a whole, so what you're going to learn from this unit, why I think it's valuable, and then we're going to work through the assessments that you'll have either in your student workbook, your LMS, and your task sheets as well. We're going to talk about what each question is really asking for and some frequently asked questions that students do have. This unit in particular has quite a lot of templates that you're going to be needing to complete and everything for your assessments as well. So this is something that I'm going to be taking you through, give you some examples of the things you can talk about and try and help you find where that information is found as well. I'll take you through the resources that are necessary to complete this unit and we'll be able to follow along through that on the LMS system as well. How can you get the most out of this webinar? I would definitely recommend having the LMS open on your screen while you're watching this. You can have your student workbook open on this page as well on this first unit. If you have a printout of the assessment so you can take notes, even better. Just something so you can, I guess, follow along and everything else. Scribble down any notes you have, any questions that you have as well that you want to shoot off to me in an email later on, anything like that at all. But I think that would be the best way to kind of get something out of this session as well. After the webinar, you can work on your assessment and submit what you've done. You're also more than welcome to complete a draft and send that through to me as well, or to your other mentor as well, just so you can get some feedback, see if you're on the right track, and just kind of work through it together as well. You're more than welcome to organize a coaching call with either myself or with your other mentors, just to be able to go through this unit in more depth, ask any questions that you do have, or just to talk through it again. We also do offer our SSS sessions, so our study support sessions, that you're more than welcome to attend to, and we do love to see you guys there. So if you're wanting to go through this in more detail, I definitely suggest going through one of those avenues as well. So let's get started. So for this one as well, we're going to start going into this assessment just as a whole, I guess. So basically the entire Human Resources unit is focused on one company in particular called the Powerhouse Museum. We've provided you with links and everything to help you out with this assessment throughout the actual tasks themselves. The unit is made up of 4 assessments and each one will follow on from each other. So I definitely recommend doing them in chronological order just because it makes more sense following it in that way. So in this first assessment, you're going to be the human resources, you're part of the human resources management. We can kind of say, I guess, that you're more in a management position role where you guys will be able to start talking about all of this kind of stuff and being able to figure out what is happening within the business itself. So with this one, just see if we can get this one happening up online. So when you come into your first course as well with this one, we'll just scroll down and find the business course. It's semester 1. Oh, we're in semester 2. Fantastic. All right, perfect. So once you've downloaded your very first assessment, you'll see your HR strategy here, where also the links are being kept. I definitely suggest using these because you will need them to be able to answer all the questions for the first assessment here. So with this, it's going to be more about breaking down what the actual activity of the Powerhouse Museum is. So why human resources is important for the museum, what their functions are, and how that's going to affect any of their future goals or objectives or anything like that. So your scenario here is that you're in a management position of the Human Resources Department for the Powerhouse Museum. So a key role of that in any organization is to ensure that the human resource strategies enable the organization to achieve its goals or its objectives. In this assessment, you're going to need to analyze and examine what those objectives are for this Australian company by following those links and everything, and looking at how your human resource strategies will make sure that they're ensured, really, so to make sure that the objectives are obtained. To be able to do your research on the Powerhouse Museum itself, we've got things about their employment, their strategies, we've got their annual report as well to see what they've done within a year and everything like that. So you'll be able to go through and work on that as well. I would definitely suggest taking this assessment, breaking it down question by question, and then putting it into a report format. If it is easier for you to just do paragraphs as well, totally acceptable, whatever you do feel most comfortable with, but definitely in some sort of report format as well, just to make it a little bit more formal and just to convey those ideas, really. So for question 1, you're specifically asked to provide in report form an analysis of this company. So using those links that I've just pointed out to you on the very first assessment, you're going to need to be guided in the preparation of your report with these following dot points. So we've got the key focus areas for this section. So what is the major activity of this company? Basically, this question is asking you, what is the Powerhouse Museum? Why does it exist? What is their major activity? So what do they provide to their community that they're in? So you'll be able to find that type of information in their About section on their website, and just kind of pull your own thoughts as well from what it is that they do in this community. You're going to be discussing 5 or 6 different human resource requirements this company would utilize. The examples that are following this question, I would definitely suggest using those as your 5 or 6 requirements, just because they're there. So technically, they're the ones that you're going to be needing to use. So we're looking at things like staff recruitment, training programs, workers' compensation, induction and counselling, and you just kind of write about why each human resource requirement is essential to that company. So out of the 5 or 6 that you choose, why do you think that this company would need them? Why is it essential that they are part of the Powerhouse Museum, and how would it benefit them in the long run? So you can think about things like, if they didn't have staff recruitment in the Powerhouse Museum, how would that affect them as an organisation? How could that affect their community if we're thinking about local employment, as well as the success of actually a business growing? We're looking at what is the external environment for this company and the likely impact that this may have on the human resource requirements. An external environment is something like a factors outside of a company's control. So there's something that they wouldn't be able to manipulate by company marketing or anything like that. An example of that can be something like government regulations or unemployment rates, any kind of competition in the area, technology changes, anything that's outside of their control. So what kind of external environment does this company have at this time? And how is that going to impact your human resources? Again, if we think of things like your unemployment rates or a government regulation, how would that reflect back onto the organization as the Powerhouse Museum? With the attributes of the workforce, our last question here, we're just looking at the workforce in general, kind of more like a snapshot of what it is. So with the types of jobs from your research and your own understanding of museums or anything that you might have known, you may have gone to a museum at some point and you just have a general understanding of what jobs there are, you're going to talk about what type of jobs there are required within the Powerhouse Museum. Think of things like security, administration, any kind of customer relations or customer service jobs. You could have curators, anything at all like that, anything you believe would be needed in a museum. So you just want to list the type of jobs that could be available in there. With those jobs, are there any qualifications required? So do they actually need anything? So for security, for example, they might need a Cert 3 in security or something to be able to work in the museum, or they may need to have extensive experience or something like that. Anything that you think that would need to be a requisite, I guess, for that job. And with those jobs as well, think of the skills that are required in that actual job role, and are they required in the broader workforce? This is where we're going to be talking more about transferable skills. So whether a skill is transferable to another job, even if it's in a completely different industry. A really great example of that is customer service. You can learn that when you're 15 years old in hospitality and then move that on 20 years later in retail or marketing, anything at all like that, because that's a transferable skill. So this is something that we definitely want you to have a think about with those skills in demand in the broader workforce. Now, based on your analysis of this company and everything, so the Powerhouse Museum that you've just completed, you're going to be asked to develop the human resource requirements for this organization. So the following questions are going to guide you in the preparation of your report. This is where I'm talking about the templates that are needing to be figured out as well. So we're going to be moving into, first off, the key areas for the focus of the HR strategy for this company. So this is more coming from question 2 that we've just done, where we're looking at the 6 requirements that are needed for human resources. So with the first question here, what is the purpose of human resources for the company? What are their main focuses? And again, you can use examples of the first questions that we answered with the question 2 about your staff recruitment, your training programs, all that kind of stuff. So why is that needed in the Powerhouse Museum? So that's part of the key areas of the focus for the HR strategy for the company for part A here. And we're also going to be looking at what the future requirements are for the workforce. This is where you're going to be looking at one of your links, and I would definitely recommend having a look at your annual report here. This is going to be able to give you a really great snapshot of what they've achieved in a year and kind of give you an understanding or an educated assumption of where they're wanting to be in the following year. So that is definitely something that you would need to be using for the future requirements for that workforce. Are they wanting to move into a bigger building? Are they wanting to move to a different community? What will that look like and what will they need? That's what you're kind of going to be looking for here. What do they need to prepare for? And what will the requirements be for any new staff? Do they need training? Do they need new induction packs? Do they need any new forms? Anything like that. For part B, this is going to be the very first template that you're using. So it's an external survey that has identified the need for the Powerhouse Museum to address senior management communications and levels of bullying and harassment. As it is essential for Powerhouse Museum to comply with legislative requirements, identify at least 3 costs of ongoing bullying and harassment, and provide a benefit of providing training to address this issue. We're going to use this cost-benefit analysis template here. You can see that there is an example ready to go for you here. So a cost in this, it can be a financial cost or just be a negative impact to the business. So a cost could be staff feeling more stressed, or there being an increased level of unproductivity. So that is a cost, whether it's going to cost the business financially or if it's going to cost them just in a negative way. The benefit, of course, is the polar opposite of that. So if the cost is going to be that staff are going to be more stressed, what is the benefit of actually implementing that training? So hopefully it's going to be the opposite of what you've written as well. So the benefit doesn't need to be a financial gain. It can be anything from having a good positive impact on the staff or the environment. It can be anything at all where it's going to benefit to have that training in place. So you'd want at least to have 3 extras or maybe 4 extra examples here of what the cost and the benefit would be of implementing that, that training for the managers. Bullying and harassment. For part C, we're doing a risk analysis, which is something a little bit different again to what we've been doing previously in your other units and everything as well. So we've already provided this for you. So I'll just pop this up onto the screen so you can have a look at what the risk analysis looks like. So what you're wanting to fill out here is just fill in the blanks. So underneath bullying and harassment, we've got a breach of legislation and non-compliance. This is one of the risks that you're going to need to fill the blanks in for. And then state what you're going to do to manage that risk and what further action will need to be taken. So if there's a breach of legislation, what is the consequence from here? So we've got a first example here to tell you what we're really looking for here. And if you just scroll down, we've got all of your little ratings and everything along the side. So you get your consequences. You can put in either the word or the number for this one to say this is the consequence that you're dealing with here. So it could be minor. And then the likelihood of that risk occurring. So if that risk is occurring and it's likely to occur frequently, you'd have B. So your actual risk rating here would be high. So if your consequence is minor, your likelihood is likely to occur frequently, B and 2, you'd have high, or just H. So this is where all of these will go. So we've got your number here for your consequence of the actual risk happening, the likelihood of the risk happening, and the risk level of that risk happening, which is all found in that table below. What are you going to be doing to manage the identified risk? So what can you do to manage the breach of legislation? What kind of actions will you take there? Are you going to be recording anything? Is there going to be any kind of evaluation for how that's going? Are you going to be able to check your compliance? And then with the further action needed, what else are you going to be doing to follow this up in the next 6 to 8 months or so? What else needs to be happening here? What kind of documents need to be made? And what further action are you needing as a manager to take to make sure that this risk doesn't incur again? You only have 3 that you need to complete on this. We've got your breach of legislation, your change to legislation, and potential redundancies as well to impact on staff morale. So just those 3 that you need to complete. You can find all of your information that you're needing here with your likelihood, your consequence, and your risk rating table there as well. So we'll just flick back to that first assessment again. Perfect. All right, fantastic. Beautiful. So once that one is completed, that template, this will need to be uploaded separately with your assessment, or you can feel free to copy and paste it into your Word document as well, whatever's easiest for you. So with this one, question 3 is your last one for assessment 1. We're going to describe the HR strategies and the future workforce needs for the Powers Museum. This is again going to come from that annual report that I pointed out earlier with your with the annual report one there. So you can choose any year that you like. I'll probably go for the more recent one. I think they've got about 10 reports on there. So if you've got the most recent one, it might give you a better idea of where they're wanting to go within the next 1 to 2 years or so. You can also have a look at previous years if that's something you're really wanting to read up on and everything else. So it might be worth having a look at the previous 3 years just to see where they've come from, where they're going. So that will give you a really great idea of where they're heading to. From that information, you want to discuss how that's going to align with the whole Powerhouse Museum. What are their goals as a whole? So there'll be something about perhaps moving to a new community where they want to have a bigger museum or something. So how will your needs with the annual report and everything, how the workforce needs going to align with that goal? Think again on staff training, recruitment. What does that all look like for the new building, for the new Powers Museum? So what are their goals for it all? So just to recap on this one here, we're going to just have a look at your criteria here. So we've got your analysis of the company, which is a 250-word report, where we're just talking about the very first questions of what the Powers Museum actually looks like. So what are the actual, what is the major activity of that company? Why do they exist? Why do we need to have those 5 or 6 requirements, and why are they so important? What's the external environment? And what are the attributes of that workforce? So you can collate all of that into a 250-word little report if you like, or you can answer each question separately in just a paragraph form. But that one is your very first analysis there. You got your HR requirements for the actual company, your cost-benefit analysis, and your risk analysis. There are first 2 templates there. And for your HR analysis, you're just looking at the future workforce requirements and how the HR or human resources, how those will benefit the actual goal itself. Perfect. So we'll just shut these ones off. Everything you need on your LMS as well can just be found here. So we've got your assessment 1 where you'll download the actual assessment from. Your cost benefit analysis and your risk analysis can be found underneath as well. Just download and start typing into the Word document. Super simple. For assessment task 2, we're going to download that one from here as well. We'll just skip forward just a bit. So assessment 2 part A. Now assessment 2 is a little bit bigger in how it's set out. A lot of it is very much based on the actual service level agreement that you'll be filling out. So it's kind of like a contract between either 2 teams or 2 different companies. It's very much a just to, I guess, to have a clear communication line of who's doing what, who's responsible for this or that, and how that's all going to look. So we're going to be looking very muchly on that and how that's all going to go. So this agreement that we're going to be focusing on is through the Powers Museum CEO, so the actual Powers Museum as a separate entity, I guess you should see it as, and the HR department as another entity as well, where they're going to come into a service level agreement and have a contractual agreement about their services that they're offering. So if we just open up task 2, Task 2 consists of 3 parts, which is going to be 3 separate assessments where, well, we're putting it all together, but 3 separate assessments on the actual Human Resources Department. So for the first one, Part A, we're going to prepare the Service Level Agreement, or SLA. This is just going to be a little brief report, 600 words, and the Service Level Agreement as a separate template. For this one especially, where you've got it broken up into 4 little parts, A, B, C, and D for this report, I would recommend starting with the Service Level Agreement, or the SLA, just because this is going to give you a really good idea of what you can actually discuss in your report. So if we just pop down to this requirement here. For your actual report, your 600-word report, you're going to be focusing on points A, C, and D. Part B is the template all on its own. So that's where I would recommend that you start. So if we just pull that one up now, just loading here. This is very much a fill in the blanks kind of deal. So you've got your Powerhouse Museum HR Service Agreement, and it's talking about how this service agreement defines the terms and conditions under which we provide the HR specialist services to a client. So for the purposes of this assessment, you're going to be the HR department, you can be the manager, and the client is the Powerhouse Museum. So at this point, in anywhere in the actual document itself, where you see your company in big bold letters, that's going to be the HR department, and the client company is going to be the Powerhouse Museum. So if you could change those terms, I guess, in the actual SLA itself, that way we'll be able to say, that we'll be able to see really clearly who the contract is through. So just replacing that as well. So your company is the HR department, client company, Powerhouse Museum. Now we've got the HR Services Agreement with the scope. So the scope is just talking more discussing about when this SLA is valid until, who it's between, and where it's all situated at. So this is where you're going to be saying that the agreement is made on a certain date and between the HR department and the Powerhouse Museum, with offices at, and then you're going to be putting in the Sydney address for this one. Everywhere where it says the blanks here as well, so requested by the client, will be the Powerhouse Museum, because they're the ones requesting that we provide a service to them about our human resources. You can tick here which human resources you would like to provide to the Powerhouse Museum. You can do as many as you like, but at least like a minimum of 5. So we'll go through that one. You'll put in the term of agreement from the dates. They need to be at least 12 months. So from the 1st of January 2017 to the 1st of January 2018, totally fine, but as long as it's 12 months. Following on with our fill in the blank deal, we've got our current HR situation analysis. So this is just looking at what we currently do. So with each topic here, or each service really, we've got inductions, payroll, leave, etc. You're going to want to either say yes or no for these ones. So do you offer that service? Yes or no? If it's yes, you want to provide details in the next box of what that looks like. So for an example, for the inductions, if we say yes, we provide that service, the details that we provide could be something along the lines of a guided tour of the offices, a workbook or something about the policies or the codes of conduct that we have in our business, the work health and safety, notices that they're needing to have, anything at all that you would need as an induction. So whatever you think that would look like, that's what we're putting here into this, into the details. If you've said no to a certain service, we don't need to provide any details. You can just put in NA or just leave it blank. But for this one, I would recommend at least having 2 maybe left as a no, because that can be something that we can improve on later on in this assessment and talk about that as a improvement that could be made. Following on from this, we've just got a little blurb about your service timelines, and this is talking more about when these tasks will happen. So we're going to copy and paste whatever we've said yes to in here, so termination, for example, and pop that into here. So that will become a HR service deliverable. So it's a service that you provide. So the responsibility then, so we've got termination as your HR service deliverable. Who's responsible for that? Is it the Palace Museum? Is it the HR department? Or is it both? With the timeline, when does this happen? Does it happen fortnightly? We hope not. Is it whenever it needs to happen? What is your time frame here? Anything can be put into here, like your payroll and everything else as well. Who's responsible for dealing with that? What's the timeline on it? Do people get paid monthly, fortnightly, weekly? Up to you. So we're just wanting to fill in everything that you've said yes to above here in the situation analysis. Whatever you've said yes to, that's what we're going to pop in here. So you've got your HR service deliverable, such as payroll, the responsibility of who's up to doing it, and the timeline of it. So how often does that service occur? When is it actually delivered? We've got a nice big blank space here for your recommendations on improving a HR function. So you can talk about here whether you've said yes to one of them and you want to improve on what that looks like or how it's delivered, or it can be something that you are not currently delivering for the Palace Museum, and it's something that you think might be beneficial to them. So if you are doing payroll and inductions, but you're not doing the termination, maybe you feel it's best to put the termination in with everything, because then it's all kind of wrapped up in one neat little package that human resources is taking care of. So it's completely up to you what you want to recommend to improve on with a HR function, as long as you're justifying why you believe that it needs to be improved on and how that will be useful to the Palace Museum as a whole. The last little bit here for this one is just your governing law. This is just going to be a little authorization to say, yes, this is happening and we've signed off on this contract. So that can be anything that you want. You can put in your client name. It can be James Bond or whoever you want. You can fake a signature and just make a date in there as well, just to make it look a little bit more formal. And once that's done, you've got your service level agreement or your SLA completed, which brings you back to the very fun report that you're now going to be talking about, where you're discussing everything that you've just said you're going to be delivering for the actual Palace Museum. So as I said before, your report is only going to be focused on points A, C, and D. So part B we've just done because that is your service level agreement, which we've just completed. So with point A, it's a brief description of the organization's HR services, the service specifications, and the performance standards and timelines. This is basically just telling us what you currently offer. So what is currently happening with the HR department? What do you offer the Palace Museum, and how does that look? This is where you want to be talking about your time frames. So again, payroll as an example, we offer this as a service. This happens every 2 weeks, every month, whatever it is. And you just want to look at those and just discuss them quite briefly. So use a few examples, maybe 3 or 4, to make up your 200 words for that one, just to discuss the differences in the services that you do offer. Point C is how that SLA agreement that we've just completed, how does that link to any strategic plans or business needs? And you're listing some of the benefits of implementing an SLA for the service in Palace Museum. So this question is really asking you, how does this agreement, your SLA, how does that benefit the Palace Museum? What is it that it's giving to kind of go ahead for strategic plans and things? Is it benefiting their goals? Is it bringing them closer towards those goals? How is it meeting the needs of the business? These can be all sorts of different points, especially if you're looking at more of an efficiency point of view. That can be something that you touch on with this as well, and having multiple services together with the HR department. That might be something that you're looking at as an efficiency level there. With point D, this is a process that you're going to discuss of how you as the manager are going to undertake a review of that contract. So in 6 months' time, we're going to be talking about how can we improve this? What feedback have you been given by the CEO or any other members of the Palace Museum? What kind of feedback would you be able to give to your senior management in regards to how it's going? This is completely up to you how you want to do this process, whether it's a meeting that you call between staff members and yourself, whether it's just the heads of different teams that you want to have a chat to and just see what they think about it, if they have any feedback, and then how you're going to take that feedback and give that through to your senior management. So we're always looking at how we can improve things. Everything is always willing to grow and change. So what is your process of undertaking that? Perfect. Cool. So again, recapping this very first part here is just looking at the actual human service deliverables that we currently offer, what we can improve on, and then writing a report on what this looks like, what we're improving on and why, and how it's benefiting the actual Powerhouse Museum itself, and what kind of processes we can undertake to make sure that this is always improving and that we can be the absolute best that we can be. For assessment B, assessment 2 part B, we are going to be looking at a communication plan. So again, we're using what we have created in the SLA, so your HR service deliverables, again, such as payroll, leave, termination, inductions, and we're just going to put it together a plan, another template, of how we can actually communicate this to our staff and our stakeholders, all of our relevant people really. So just open up the actual communication plan so you can just have a look at that. It's just another template that we're going to be filling in. So I've already filled in the actual target audience of who do we want to inform of what. The key messages, what do we want to tell these people? So especially the employees, what kind of messages do you think that they need to be aware of? Again, we're going to be going back to the service level agreement of how everything is looking. So basically you can just copy and paste the deliverables that you think are relevant to that group of people. So with the employees, do they need to know about the inductions? Do they need to know about any of the leave or payroll, termination, anything at all? What do they need to know about? I'm more than happy for you to dot point this in there and just list the actual key messages or your deliverables that they need to be aware of. And each one may be different. Maybe the contractors only need to know about one deliverable. Maybe the employees need to know about every deliverable. Completely up to you how you want to set it out. But we're basically just going to list what we want to talk to them about. The communication methods, how are we going to be telling them? Is it going to be through a meeting? Is it through an induction? Especially if it's a brand new employee, are they going to be given all of this information in a booklet? Is it going to be an email that's going to go around? Regular meetings, however you want it to be. What is your communication method for making sure that that target audience is aware of those service deliverables and all that they entail? And who's responsible for doing it? Who's responsible for that communication plan? Is it going to be the Powerhouse Museum? Is it going to be the Human Resource Department? Is it both? Is it an outside party? Who knows? Completely up to you. With the deadline, when does this need to happen by? I'm more than happy for you to have just a random date in there. It can be an ongoing date that needs to happen. So for instance, something such as any payroll information or anything like that might be ongoing. It might be something that gets updated every couple of months or something. So again, this is completely up to you. With the date completed, again, pop in a date if you like. If it has not been completed or you think it's an ongoing task, you can just write that in there. It can be, ongoing as soon as possible within the next month or two, but completely up to you how you want it to look, as long as each one of these boxes is filled out and it's very clear what this message is and who's getting it and how. That's all I'm really looking for here. As long as we're communicating everything properly, it's all good. So again, just communication recap here. The communication plan is just a tool that we're using here to make sure that we have reached all of our stakeholders, whether it's employees, managers, contractors, whatever they are, that they're all aware of what our service deliverables are and what we as the HR department are offering the Powerhouse Museum. We're just going to tell them what they need to know. We're discussing how they're going to know this stuff. So whether it's through a meeting, phone call, email, however you want to do it, and what the time frame is on that one as well. Alrighty, part C, we're nearly done with this one. So part C here, I'm just going to pop this up onto the screen again. It's just a report on a training plan here. So we've given you a scenario here of what is needing to happen within the HR department. And currently the scenario is basically that the mandatory fire training has not been great. Let's just say that. So apparently now the Powerhouse Museum is non-compliant with the actual application of the legislation and everything. So this is something that we're needing to rectify here. So with this, you're going to discuss how we're going to present this training, how we're going to make sure that everybody is doing this training and making sure that it's a really great proposal that we're putting together for this. So you're needing to read the scenario here. It provides all the information that you're going to need for this. And then you're going to discuss the requirements of a suitable training plan to meet that need of the training need. So we need to be compliant in our work health and safety and our fire training. So how are we going to identify that as a training need, and how are we going to make sure that it's communicated to everybody? So you need to focus the areas for training as well as your identified target group. So who is needing to actually do this training. You need to also identify any policies or legislations that are needed for this completion. Discuss how the training need is going to be communicated to your different departments and other stakeholders. So how are they going to know that this training is needing to happen, that we are now non-compliant? How is that going to be communicated to them? And what is your actual proposal for quality assurance and evaluation of the training? How do you know that they've done well? To break this down, I would start more with identifying in your report what the problem is. Talk it through, discuss what the actual issue is and how this issue has been proposed to be rectified. So it's through reading through the scenario. You'll find that it could be through video training and an online component. So maybe that's something that you're wanting to discuss in more detail of what that will actually look like. How can you make sure that everybody knows that this training is needing to happen? How can you make sure, more importantly, that they actually complete this training, which is your quality assurance? You want to make sure that everybody that is needing to make sure that it's compliant, everybody is needing to complete that. So how can you make sure that they're doing it? Whether it's incentivized, if it's a compulsory deal through work, you can do it at work time. If they have to do it at home, whatever it looks like to you, that's what you're going to be wanting to discuss here. And how are you going to evaluate that training? How will you make sure that the training that they have received is a good quality, that they will actually, in need of a crisis or anything, that they'll actually be able to complete that training and use that knowledge. So how are you going to evaluate that? Evaluating can be anything from testing them, running fire drills, checking with the training organization to see that everybody has completed it at a high level. So again, evaluating it can look like anything to you for your actual report. The training report for Part C is only 150 words, so I'm not really expecting a massive in-depth look at it. It's just a quick little snapshot of what a training plan could look like in terms of this scenario. So it's only 150 words, so not really anything to panic about or anything like that. It's just more of looking at what we can actually achieve in that. So recapping Part C, you're given a scenario here that you're needing to discuss with the training plan. You're going to discuss how it's going to be communicated to the people who are needing to complete the training, how you're going to make sure that they complete that training, and how you're going to evaluate that it's actually been a good quality of training. So to make sure that your Powers Museum is compliant. So where to from here? You can contact me at all whenever you want to through my mobile, email, or through the LMS. It has a messaging system as well. But basically from here, we're going to look at how we can attempt the questions now with the webinar information that you've had. If you've got a breakdown in your student workbook as well, it should definitely help you. And there's resources online with the links and everything in Assessment 1 that you'll be able to utilize as well, just to make sure that that's all going from here. Even if you're not 100% on your questions and everything, if you're feeling that your report is not going in the right direction or anything like that, feel free to email me a draft of it. I'm more than happy to look it through, give you some feedback and make sure that you're on the right track. If you submit it and you're just looking for a draft as well, just pop a note in there, just trying to see if you're on the right track, and we're more than happy to mark that for you as well and just give you that feedback. If you're having any questions or you have any concerns about this unit at all, you again feel free to contact me. You can rewatch the webinar, skip to points where you want to be able to go back to that one question. You don't have to watch the whole thing all over again. And you'll be able to look at the unit breakdowns and be able to have a look at the resources again. Again, contact me whenever you want. I've got my details up on the screen at the moment. You can call me on my mobile, text me if you like, if that's more comfortable, or just tell me to give you a call back. I'm more than happy to. You can email me or the whole mentor team on the emails addresses that are on the screen at the moment. And you'll also be able to request any Skype sessions if it's more more something that you're wanting to have like a face-to-face kind of deal there. You're also more than welcome to come along to the Triple S sessions where your mentor will be able to be in class with you and help you break down this unit as well. They're all pretty amazing at what they do, so I'm more than confident that you'll be able to get through it. So again, the support available to you. What is next? Once you've successfully submitted the assessment 1 and 2, you can hop on to assessment 3 and 4, which is the webinar that will be up next, just to kind of go through the last parts of this one. So after this, you're halfway through this unit and you're almost there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any kind of comments, feedback on the webinar, anything at all, feel free to get in contact with me. Questions, concerns, pop me an email. I'm more than happy to help.